welcome to my kitchen. Today I am making pumpkin waffles. That's what we call them around here. I have a very picky 4-year-old who I have to cook for, and I have done my best to add nutrients to food anywhere I can, and she happens to like pumpkin and waffles. So here's what we've done with a waffle recipe we've adapted. So I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour and put that in my bowl. Then we've got 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Got my really handy measuring spoon. I like this measuring spoon because it's a space saver, and I really hate having extra things. That wasn't quite enough. Yeah, I enjoy making food. I'm not great at it, but I have to feed people. And so I found creative ways to do it, and I sort of enjoy taking the time to do these things. Next, I need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So to start with, I'm following a really basic waffle recipe. You can actually turn on I've got my waffle maker heating up already. Doesn't matter if it's completely ready to go or not. Waffles are very forgiving. Something I've learned is that most recipes are pretty forgiving. You just gotta go with it. You know, when I was a kid, my dad often, you know, he'd be cooking, and I'd ask, well, how much of this are you putting? How much of that? He's like, I don't know, maybe it's about this much. And I never understood. It used to drive me crazy. I didn't understand how he didn't know what measurements he was using. It drove me nuts. And now I get it. The point is, it doesn't have to be perfect, and a lot of it can be to taste. Once you have the basic recipe, you really don't have to worry too much about what you're up to. Okay, so I've got, my flour, baking powder, and my salt in there. Now the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. I try not to put too much processed sugar in the food that I'm feeding my kids, my daughter in particular, because she loves processed sugar. Who doesn't? Anyhow, so I have some maple syrup that I've added, and the recipe calls for butter or oil, and I use olive oil because that's what I have a lot of. Anyhow, so I've supplemented with some maple syrup instead of sugar. Right, so now and then the recipe calls for 2 eggs. And what I'm going to do, let's see, crack our eggs in there and then we'll get to it. If you're nervous about cracking eggs, you can crack them in a separate container. That way if you get any shell, you don't have to worry about trying to scoop it out. That is one of the most frustrating things I found in the kitchen, is when I crack an egg poorly and then I have to scoop it out of my mixture. Today I did okay. All right, and then we're going to need 1.5 cups of milk. And I'm not actually going to use up the full 1.5 cups, again, because I've added maple syrup, which is a liquid, and I'm going to be adding some pumpkin puree. We need to balance out our liquids, and so that was 1 cup. I'm going to do 1 1/4 to start with. Okay. So what you want to do when you're adjusting a recipe, what I've found works for me, if I'm adding something with liquid, so you can see this is pretty runny. I'm not sure if you can see. There's a lot of water in there. So that's why I'm going to hold off on adding too much of the milk yet until I see what consistency I end up with. So I'm going to mix that all in. Oh, and I've got some spices. This recipe doesn't call for cinnamon or nutmeg, but I like to add them. I'm all about making it taste as good as possible, getting that kid to eat it. And if they're tasty, I like to eat them too. So I've got some ground nutmeg here. The cinnamon, I think I added about 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and you're gonna add just a very, very, very small amount of the nutmeg. It's very strong. I'm actually gonna pour it into my hand first because I've added too much before and it ruined the entire batch. So I've got just a little bit. I've got some clumps here. Just gonna smush them out. It's fine. It's very forgiving. Don't be afraid of things in the kitchen. I think the best lesson I have learned, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's gonna taste good. It really does taste good all the time. If it smells good, it's gonna taste good. If you add too much of something, add more of everything else. You don't have enough of something, just use a little bit less. I think the best advice I have really is try the recipe once exactly how it's written. See what you think. And then go from there, and then, you know, sort of gradually ease yourself into trying new things. And that's what I've done, and that's worked for us. Get that mixed in really well. What I'm doing, I've got some lumps in there, so I'm just taking my spoon and sort of smushing everything up against the side with my spoon. It's pretty easy. And it really, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what I keep reminding myself. It's enough that you're doing it. Now, because I'm making these for my daughter, she won't eat it without chocolate chips. If you add chocolate chips, she'll eat almost anything. And so I am adding chocolate. I don't measure chocolate. I sort of go with what feels right. I don't know. Chocolate and vanilla are two things when I cook or bake, I don't measure. Mix it all in. So you could omit the chocolate. I happen to like the chocolate. This is not chocolatey enough for my picky eater. So you can see every bite won't have chocolate. If I take this scoop, oh, there's some chocolate. It's not chocolatey enough. We'll add more. We'll keep her happy. Keep her fed. There we go. Oh yeah, I can hear those chocolate chips hitting my spoon. I definitely have enough now. I don't know if you can, there we go. See all those wonderful chocolatey bits. Okay, so that's it. That's everything I'm gonna add. It's all in there. Get these things out of the way so you can actually see how I'm doing this. Now, if you wanted to and you wanted your waffles to be perfect, you could use a ladle. A ladle works really well for spooning out your batter. I don't bother. I just pour it in there. So I'll pour it and then I'll show you how much I've done. I just pour a big clump, about a third of the batter. I know that because I've done this a few times. I'm gonna put about a third of the batter on my waffle iron. Don't worry too much. There we go. Close it. It's all gonna spread out. You don't have to stress about that. And give it about 4 minutes and then you can take it off. I'm gonna go grab a plate. I forgot my plate. Okay, so I'm gonna check on them. If you get a little antsy, you can always take a peek. If they're sticking, they might not be done. I don't know if you can see that they're stuck on the lid. Or they might just be stuck. Let's see. These are pretty good. Okay, so you can see it's not perfect. Look, I missed an entire waffle almost isn't there. And you know what? That's okay. They still taste really good. They're delicious, and I'll make more. Okay, so now if you're making these for yourselves, you probably do want them crispy, which is why you would leave them for the full 4 minutes. I left them for about 3.5. The other really important thing to know is they're steaming. They're super hot, obviously. So if you want them to stay crispy, don't stack them. And actually, what I would even do is I tent them sometimes on the plate so that the bottom doesn't get soggy. I'll try to show you that. There you go. Tented, just like that. Anyhow, I'm actually making these ahead of time and I'm going to put them in the fridge. And my daughter doesn't care if they're soft. She prefers them that way, so it's not a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna scoop some batter, a little bit more this time. And this time we're going with about half. Like I said, we wanna do thirds, so half this time. Okay, there we go. I'll show you one more time. You can see, I'm just gonna close the lid and we're gonna see what happens. And we're gonna wait. It's really simple. Homemade waffles are tasty. I love that I can make it healthy and it still feels sort of like a treat. You can check on them anytime you want. These ones are still sticking. If I can't lift up the lid, they're not ready yet, so we wait. Sometimes waiting is the hardest part. I get really impatient sometimes. So these are a little undercooked. That's okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm waiting. I'm very impatient sometimes. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. We're gonna wait 1 more minute and then they'll be ready. And then we'll make our final round. Okay, there we go. That should be done. There we go. The lid lifted right up. They're ready to go. Lay these flat because again, I don't need crispy waffles. And you can see they're not perfect. Ooh, that was hot. Sometimes They're not perfect, but they are going to be delicious. And these days, that's what I care about. How does it taste? Okay, so we're gonna use the rest of the batter, and now scoop out what I can. Oh, it's a little bit too much. It's okay. All right, and we're gonna close it. And now we're really gonna wait 4 minutes. Okay. Okay, so it's been 4 minutes. I'm going to open this up, check it out. And you can see, because the first rounds of waffles that I made, were about, 3 and a little bit. You can see my, oh, I apologize, my little bit right here. It's not a full waffle. And the same thing happened the first time. So this third time, my waffles exploded a little bit. They're a little bit fat. And you know what? It doesn't matter. They're gonna taste delicious. And I'm done. So it was really fast. I'm gonna turn that off. Pull these off of here. If I can. I'm gonna remember not to touch it because it was really hot that time. Okay, I lied. I'm gonna touch it. I can't help myself. And I'm just gonna toss them on a plate. Once they cool, I'm gonna throw them in the fridge. And I warm them up on my griddle every morning for my daughter for about, I don't know, a minute and a half. While it heats up, even you can just warm up a waffle on it. So yeah, that's how I do that. And thanks for watching, and be kind to yourself and have fun doing it. See you next time.